Hey, welcome everyone. Some of you I may have just seen a few minutes ago. Some of you may be coming to us for the first time tonight, but either way, I'm excited to have you. I've got two superstars with me tonight to be able to share a little bit about their journey with Market America and the importance of some of the things that'll be coming up in the near future as well. Why don't you do me a favor? If you are on with us right now in the chat, if you would put where you're from, that lets me know that you can hear us. And it also tells us where we have people. Rodney, good to see you again, buddy. And Roxanne, you two are two of the first to reply always. You're quick, you're ready, you know we're going to do it, and you're right on it. So let me introduce today our two panelists, I'll call them. They're really our guests. But I'll start off with Shelley Beau from Wisconsin. Shelley is a director in the company and $1 Million Club member as well. Shelley and I have known each other, boy, it's got to be about 24 years now, I think, Shelley, or so. She has built, she's also a local coordinator in the Northeast Wisconsin area. She's built a great organization throughout the years, a great friend, who has the ability to overcome about anything I've ever seen to be able to build this business. So Shelley, thank you for being on with us and sharing this tonight, your story with everyone. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
And next to Shelley, we have Field Vice President Arlene Lowy, a $1 Million earner. She has been a local coordinator, probably a district coordinator. She's been the queen of OPC. She has done it all, and I've had the pleasure of really working closely with Arlene. Really, what has it been, Arlene? The last year, we've really been doing that accountability group, which has been really fun. We've known each other forever, of course, but really got to spend a lot of time together recently, and really great to have you on. You're such an inspiration to so many people, and really looking forward to people hearing your background and your story as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. Why don't we start off, Shelley? Why don't you tell us a little bit? Why don't we start with you on how you were introduced to the unfranchised business? How did this all come to be that you're on Zoom tonight sharing with thousands of people across the world about what you do?
Okay, Jim. So it's really hard to tell this story looking at you because you are such a part of this story. So I was introduced at the time. I was working really close to 70 hours a week, and I was supporting people that had developmental disabilities, managing facilities. And I had two kids at the time, 6 months old and 3 years old. Wow. And this gentleman that was one of my supervisors came to me and said, you've got such a background in health and nutrition. He said, Shelley, honestly, I just feel like you could be doing more with your life than, just when you think about the hours and the money. And so he told me that I should, maybe take a look at trying this isotonic product because I was looking for good nutritional support. That was the beginning for me. So that was one piece of it that I was like, wow, like there's really something to this. Well, then he asked me to take a look at the business. And I can tell you that the last thing I wanted to do was look at some business. I'm already like, I have no time. I have no money. I have
two young kids, 70 hours a week.
Right. And I'm thinking, and I should look at some weird business. Well, that's where Jim comes in. So we drove down to Milwaukee one night, and who's showing the business plan? I mean, Jim, you were only 6 months on board. And so here's this guy, right? And, but truly that was a huge part of it, Jim. And I think a good lesson for all of us is that you had such a humility about you and such transparency. And I thought, okay, I don't have a clue what the guy's talking about. I've never built a business, but there was something about you that I trusted. And you took the time to sit down with me after that meeting that night. And that was where everything changed. When I looked at Jim.
That's where you threatened my life, Shelley.
So this is a true story, guys, and we're both alive today, so I can tell the story. But I'm a Wisconsin farm girl, right? I don't mind hard work, but I looked at Jim and I said, listen, I've got no time, I've got no money, my life is an absolute mess. Please, if you're leading me down some crazy path with some weird company, like tell me now, because otherwise I'm going to have to kill you. And that is the truth. I threatened Jim's life the first night I met him. And so I don't know, he must have, that must have been it, Jim, from that day forward. You you were either scared of me or, you just, but you believed in me. I mean, you believed in me. And I came home, I talked to my husband, said, I really want you to take a look at this, but we made our decision pretty quickly that we were going to move forward and do this. And I've never looked back.
Yeah, I think one of the keys as we talked about it, Shelley, was, and a lot of us get questions like this where people say, is this really going to work? Can I really do it? And the answer always is very honestly, if they'll put the work in. And
Yes.
Shelley said she would put the work in. I said, if you put the work in, you're going to be successful. But if you're one of those people who just tells me you're going to put the work in and you don't, then you won't be successful. So it's that simple.
Jim, I thank you for saying that, because that is one piece that I would say, if I see anything in the field right now, there is a little bit of a change there. And I would encourage people to go back to this respect for your time and for you putting the effort into me. You did say that. You said, hey, if you're coachable and you'll do what I say. And I tell people I did what you said, even when I didn't understand why I was doing it, even when it was a sacrifice and it was uncomfortable. And maybe I didn't want to be sitting at that local seminar when I didn't see my kids all week, but I did what you said because I believe that I owed you that for respect of what you were willing to put into me. And I hope everyone hears me when I say that there's something to be said about the person who's putting time and effort into you, having enough respect for that person that you're willing to be coachable.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Arlene, let's move to you and let's hear how you were introduced to the business.
I really like Shelley's story, to tell you. I mean, I didn't know she was a farm girl. I learn more about this lady every time I hear her speak. She's just and tremendous trainer, by the way. She's just brilliant at this business at this point. My story is crazy. At 28 years of age, I actually looked at my corporate owner of the company. I was working with Sony Corporation, and I said, I'm out of here. I'm very ballsy. I'm very gutsy. I'm the type of person that doesn't have to have money behind me. I will roll up my sleeves. I will figure it out. And I just said to him, I'm not worth more than $36,000 a year. And that's all. I kept on saying, if they did 2 million, they asked me to do 2 million. I did 3 million, 4 million. I said, I'm done. And by fluke, I ended up meeting some people in the industry we're in now. And I look back and I said, wow, I can own my own time. I can spend time with people. I can do the same thing because I come from a master's in teaching. So my relationship building process was a little bit a different way, but I'm not an early riser. I'm someone who gets up at 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm pretty nocturnal like my cat. And so the hours didn't work for me working for a company that was going to underpay me. I didn't mind overworking to get highly overpaid.
Right.
But I learned very quickly. I came into the industry and was trained by some of the best people in the industry that make, and I remember them saying to me, I'd rather have 1% of 100 people's efforts than 100% of my own. I'd rather have a Coke machine in every state and pop a quarter and get paid. I understood leveraging. I understood value of time. And so my story is really interesting with Market America. This is really very important. Frank Kiefer came to me for 1.5 years. He was from Baltimore. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He came to my house 3 times. He tried to get me in this business. He had me on the phone with JR. He had me on the phone with Marty Weissman. I remember sitting in my office, sitting on the floor, and these guys were trying to talk me into this because they knew that when I put my foot to the pedal or the metal, whatever you want to call it, I just really run with something when I believe in it. And I just was not interested. I was in another business. I was doing well. And I don't leave a business because another thing looks better, because I have a relationship with all these people. I spent all this time with. This is what Shelley's talking about, this relationship building. Well, that business fell apart because, as JR always talks about, how these people fall apart in these multi-level marketing deals. And I never was in any of them greater than 3 or 4 years because they all fell apart. So when they showed me this, I didn't understand the marketing plan, by the way. I didn't get it at all. It was a complete antithesis of everything I had been doing. Didn't make any sense to me. And so I didn't come in because I understood the plan. I came in because of Frank Kiefer, and I respected him so much because I had him in multi-level marketing and I trained him in that industry. So we had this tremendous relationship of respect. And during the process of the whole time for 1.5 years, I was getting people on board to look at this. And the first night, we finally brought 8 people into my house. They all looked at me and they said, well, Arlene, if you're going to sell broomsticks, we don't care. We're coming in. And they all
didn't matter what it was, right?
They didn't care because they knew how I was going to work with them and develop. And I think the real thing that's impressive about this business, After 27 years of being in this business, 4 people are still with me.
Out of the 8, half the people. That is incredible.
Don't think because someone's driving a Rolls Royce that they can afford to drive it. I'm just telling you. And so the doors are wide open. This market is just so wide open. And by the way, I'm a single parent, been a single parent since my son was 6 months old, was able to develop my whole business around him all my life. And he's probably my best student. What can I say? He's 37 years of age. So now, I just hit 70 years of age a week and a half ago. My God, I'm now in the last part of my life.
Well, if this is your last part, you're making it your best part.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, which is really great. Arlene, I remember it was one of the first times I ever met you. I don't know if you will remember this story or not, but we started talking, and I was asking you, I'm like, Arlene, is this really real? Why did you leave another company? You were making, great money. And I think, why? And you were telling me about how it was all built and stuff. And you said, Jim, here's the real answer. This is the only company I ever put any of my family members in.
Yeah, it's true.
Because I believed in it that much. You could make money in the other companies, but you weren't going to put your family in. Here you put your family in. When you said that to me, it really, really dug in that you knew it was the right thing for everyone to succeed in, not just the top people.
Today, I even have 6 people still in my family in it because they won't go off the isotonics.
Yeah. Well, and you talked about, you joked about selling broomsticks, but the key is that we have these great products that when you have great products and you have a compensation plan and you can put those two together with a training system, it's what JR put together. It's what's made it so special for so many people for so long, and it's going to make it special for the next 30 years for the next group of people that'll be coming, that we're now training and building and teaching how to do this business. Shelley, let me jump back to you a little bit and ask you a couple questions. What's been the greatest benefit you've experienced since you've been with the Unfranchise business and being an entrepreneur? You were an employee before.
Absolutely. So, there's been some milestones, and I would say certain moments that I would say were very pivotal. The one, though, that really stands out, when we started this business, very few people know really how difficult life was at that time. It was very difficult. And when I say we had no money, what? So lots of amazing things with being home with the kids, being able.
Yeah, I love, I remember when you were building or buying your new home and then using Debt Shredder as one of our products, obviously, to help you accelerate paying that off. And then as you continued to build your business and the income continued to grow, you were able to put extra money towards it. It was wonderful to watch and see it. You really have a different sense of freedom when you don't have debt on a home, or you're not surrounded and drowning in debt. Isn't it different, Shelley?
Well, it's absolutely different. And it's such a freedom. You can't explain it until you really experience it. And I think a lot of people, to me, it reminds me sort of weight loss when we're teaching weight loss classes, and people are almost afraid of, well, I don't want to get, too fit. I don't want to look too good. Why don't you? And people kind of, feeling that sense of freedom, it just prompted, and you're right, Debt Shredder. When I plugged those numbers in and I saw what we could do in getting this house paid off, I thought, why wouldn't I? So really, that's remarkable for anybody listening to look into Debt Shredder.
No, that's great. It's great. Arlene, same question for you. What's your greatest benefit you feel you've experienced? I think I know what you're going to say, but I want to hear it.
Really? You think you know what I'm going to say?
Well, I might have an idea.
Well, look, the reason I got in this business is because my goal has always been to change other people's lives. The first day, I remember when they said they wanted me to do a dream board. I have that dream door in my basement. Everybody has dream boards. And you know what they have? They have houses up there. I already had the house. I had the cars. I had every single thing in my life that everybody is always putting on those boards. But I didn't. I had people's faces. I had all the people that I brought into my organization, and I had formatted their goals on how I was going to take them to the pin level that they wanted, because I knew if I got them to the pin level, I would have whatever I wanted. I'm the type of person that doesn't have a goal of my own. I've had everything I've wanted in my life. It's what the other person doesn't have. And what Shelley's talking about is this belief level of getting people to believe that they can actually attain it. And I think that I have 14 or 15 people alone right now in the Millionaires Club. Impressive is every one of them was someone who was blue collar, not white collar. People, because our plan works if you follow it. It has nothing to do with degrees. It has everything to do with just consistently doing something every day in small steps, but knowing what those steps are. So it's really incredible to look at the person who you're working with and goal setting them properly to achieve what they want. And that's basically what I've been able to change a lot of people's lives. And that's my turn on.
Yeah. And you know, when you do that, as you said, you're going to get everything you want. I think it's interesting knowing both of you, as with the success you've had, your entire focus is on other people, you know, and when your focus is on other people and rising them up, funny as it sounds, you tend to get more because you're helping more. For the more people you help, the more it's going to end up coming back to help you. It's the law of the universe. Help enough other people and it's going to help you.
And one more thing, and what you're probably, I've been a single parent since my son's been 6 months old. I was not afraid of it. And from that time, I said to Jordan, Jordan, you know, I was always working, always showing the plan. I'd have Krakow swings going around my room. I'd have 5 people showing the plan. I'd do whatever I had to do. I didn't care. I rolled up my sleeves and I just said, hey. And the bottom line is I said, I will give you everything you want in your life. But he saw the work ethics. He saw me flip down and see it, lose everything and start all over again, come down, because he saw me in multi-level marketing. I understood it, but the companies went away. And he said to me last night, he said on the phone, he says, 27 years with the company? That's really amazing. And I said, well, I don't have any place to go.
And why would you want to at this point, right?
Right, exactly.
And you know, Arlene's son Jordan is an incredible entrepreneur and a success. And I can say that and say you've got to be so proud, and you got to know that you installed a lot of that in him through what he saw you doing as an unfranchise. And Shelley, your children, same thing, entrepreneurial, successful. And I think that's watching their moms and Tony, in your case, Shelley, grow up and see what they're doing to achieve that success, you know, and getting that mindset of it's not trading time for money, it's building a business.
You know, what's interesting you just said, because the longer I was in this business, the amount of people that had children that were at home, that over the years have watched the parents build this and bring the family unit back together. All these kids are super, super successful. And their mindsets are very different because the parents were there to set the example. And that's what Shelley did. And that's what I did. And that's why we have kids that are dangerous.
In a good way. Good way, David. Shelley, let's talk about, you know, we've got coming up our world conference, which will be coming. It's not far. I cannot believe how quick this is coming, team. And it's going to be here in no time. Tell us a little bit about your first major event, because there's 2 major events a year. There's World Conference and there's International Convention. I am of the belief that you attend both of them the rest of your career in the business. That's the way it is, whether you're attending online or whether you're in person, but you're attending. You're there. That's the key. You're focused in on it. So Shelley, tell us about your first event and really what's happened since then with events.
Absolutely. So Jim Winkler brings up, you know, this convention coming up in August. So I started at the end of April, and he, you know, had mentioned it several times. And I'm sure behind the scenes, he was assuming that, of course, I'm planning to go. And secretly, I was thinking there's absolutely no way. I can't afford the time. I don't have the money. You know, there's just no way. I've never left my children. And so, of course, the day comes where Jim calls me up and he says, so Shelley, just want to make sure that you've got your hotel and arrangements and your flights and everything booked for the upcoming international convention. And that was the day I said, well, Jim, I actually am not going to be able to get off work, nor do I have the money to be able to go. And I think now how many people say that very same thing to me. And I do my best, Jim, to say exactly what you said to me. See, that's not an option. This would be a non-negotiable. So we need to figure out, Shelley, we know you're going. We just need to figure out how you're going to get there. And I really do use that same verbiage because it isn't a matter of not if you want to be successful, and you knew
Right.
I wanted to be successful. So that right there is the decision maker. Do you want to be successful? Then do what successful people do. So I took you very seriously. So what did I do? I'm not very crafty, but I started making crafts and selling them. I started making phone calls and just inviting people to take a look at the products, whatever I could move to earn retail profit. I called up the two people that I had personally sponsored. So I had my first two gentlemen, and one of them is still with me today. The other one has passed on. So I called them up and I said, listen, if I'm going to this thing, you guys are going to this thing, let's get on the phones and let's start moving products. And we did whatever we could to raise money. Then we decided we're not going to fly, we're going to drive. There is where I would say probably one of my greatest stories in the history of my experience with this company. We get in this little Saturn car. We load up the car, right? The trunk is full of shoes. The back is full of our luggage. My two unfranchise owners were some big boys. So they had
Big
to be in
boys.
front.
They're going
Big boys,
250
right?
plus,
Right.
250 plus.
So they're in the front seats. And where am I? For 17 and a half hours, I am laying across the luggage in the back seat. Now, can you even imagine what this looks like as we're traveling? Yet it created some of the best memories of my entire life. We laughed so much. We had so much fun. We bonded, we built, I mean, it's again, relationships. Then we get to the hotel and you can only imagine what we could afford. So now we're staying in a hotel that, dear God, you can't trust anything. Jim saw us, it probably was, so that was my first convention. My second convention, I think Jim saw us pull up. By this point, I have a nice organization, right? I understand the importance of being there. We put 12 people in a hotel room. Don't tell anybody that's looking, inspectors, fire codes, 12 people. We load us into a rental car. We get to the convention and we are pulling people out of the trunk. We're rolling out of the back seat. And I think Jim
Looked
was
like a
walking by and
clown
he's like,
car. Looked like one of those clown cars.
and we got the biggest kick out of the challenge of how many people can we fit in a car. So is any of this legal? No, don't do this at home, friends, right? But I mean, it was so much fun and I will never forget. And the moral of this story, we did whatever it took to do what we were being told to do if we wanted to be successful. I have never missed anything since. I haven't even missed a UBP, not a UBP, not a local, not a regional, not a district, a convention, nothing. It's the one thing that I would say I really have done right is I trusted that this is what I have to do and we have to lead by example. So those were some really fun stories from my first couple conventions.
I love it. And I knew those stories. And, you know, for everybody listening, one of the things I would say, some of your best times are going to be the hardest times. They don't always feel like it while you're doing it, but those are the stories you'll remember of how you got to where you're going, like Shelley's talking about. So when you're going through those, go through them, enjoy them. Realize that if you're not in the bunker with somebody, you're not gonna have a story to tell. So those are okay to have like that. And Shelley, it's great to see, you know, what you've continued to do. I'll come back to that in a little bit, but and how that organization has grown. Arlene, share with us similar, you know, your first event and what's happened since then for you.
Wow. Well, mine is so different because, as I said, I'd come from the industry, the home-based business industry. So I sort of just knew that people had to be connected to the business in order to get the belief. That it wasn't going to be coming from me. They had to see what was going on with corporate and the presentation. So the first time I went was Tyson's Corners, and that's in Virginia. And I remember Frank Kiefer saying to me, how many people do you have coming? I said, about 50. He said, what do you mean 50? I said, you know, I have 50 because if I want to get to director in 1 year, which was my goal, I have to have 50 people there that need to get the belief. And that's what I did. And believe it or not, that's what happened. Because I knew that JR and Lauren and the rest of the corporate team had to sell these people the belief of what they were in. And like Shelley understands, and I understand, it wasn't even being about a single mom. It was never, this was a business to me. This was not a hobby. This was something I had a passion about that I wanted to develop. Well, I know when I was with Sony Corporation, if I went to a business briefing, it certainly wasn't $200 for a ticket. it didn't cost us. I don't even know how they put this event on for $200. I still don't. I don't know how they do it. I honestly don't, because things cost a lot of money it's amazing. But the reality is sometimes I think that people don't value that fact of that. And I just think it's important that people have to stay connected to what they're in. You're either in or you're out. That's as simple as it is. You're either committed or you're not. This is either a vacation or this is a hobby. This is a business to me. And those are the people I want to develop. Those are the people I want to spend time with and change their lives.
Oh, I love it. And, you know, this is a great comparison of Shelley, who had no background in the industry at all, to Arlene, who you'd already learned so much. It's like you came in with years of experience to say, I got to get 50. If I want to hit director, I have to get 50 people there, and I got to let someone else do the work. Yep. So many people think they have to do everything, and it's the wrong way to think. The right way to think is get people in front of other people and let them do the work, because it's like parents. Sometimes your kids listen to other people better than they listen to you because they hear your voice all the time. Or a coach sometimes of a team, eventually the team goes deaf because they've heard them talk so much that a fresh voice makes a difference. And Arlene, that's great coaching.
You want to hear something funny that happened on that one? You guys are going to chuckle on this one. I don't know if I should say it, but it was a horrible snowstorm and it was really challenging for people to get there. And I said, I don't care if you tow yourself there, you get there. Yeah. But I remember JR couldn't get a plane out of there. He couldn't get home. So he could get a plane. He couldn't get anything. That was true.
Well, that probably built the belief in the person that it worked.
Well, the bottom line was at that level, he believed that he had what he had, and he was starting to develop, so he was owed that. And so he got in his car and he drove home. Oh, the only way he could get out of there. Everybody else was stranded. But that was okay. We were having a good time. I
was going to say, you probably have some great memories of being stranded there from some of the stories I've heard over the years about Tyson's Corner.
You don't want to know. You don't want to know, but it was great.
Now, Arlene, let's stay with you for a second. You know, working on the accountability group we work on together, I've been so impressed with your ability to get people to attend major events. You've made it a mission when we've been talking about it. And can you share with me, how are you doing? Like, what is your plan over the next couple of weeks to make sure your team, you have everybody you can have at that World Conference, either online or in person, whatever it may be, but that you're getting them focused on attending the major event?
Well, I've already started. And the first thing I did is I broke down all of the leaders in my organization, the major people that are leaders. And that's a lot of them, believe it or not. And I found out, how many of them have any tickets available in the system, which is really important to get the tickets sold that are out there, that people have committed to 3 and maybe sold 2 and maybe have 1 left over. And that's what I'm doing now. Everyone has to draw up their list for me. The second thing is, we're also calling, and I told people they better get on the phone, because if they don't, I'm going to start calling every single person who's alive and breathing. But I want to find out who has a ticket, okay? Whether they go hybrid or not. See, the beauty about hybrid, when people can't go, was the fact that I told you this before, is you're not selling the event as much as the 14-day after, okay? Because there's people that cannot get off of their work. They're working Thursday, Friday, Saturday. They can't even get down there if they wanted to. So there's no excuse for anybody to say no to me, and they really have a tough time. So I actually go down my entire list of everybody in the organization, and I call one after another, and I'm just selling. I know in the next 2 months, I will sell a lot of tickets this time, even more than I did the last time. I know, I think it was 45 this past time. But I actually have people that I've already called and said, because I know that they keep on telling me they want to do this business. Well, if you want to do this business, you got to get the information. You also have to lead by example. You can't tell someone about something you don't have the knowledge. Knowledge is power. I feel like I'm doing the basic 5.
But you're right. And when we would talk and you would talk about giving that call, if they can get there in person, great. If they can't get there in person, watch it on the weekend. If you can't watch it on the weekend, you have 14 days. What's the next excuse going to be? Because there can't be any if you're serious about growing. And that's the key. And the more people, Arlene, you keep getting there, the faster your team is growing. And it's great to see you, on our calls, you've talked about people who are out of the game pretty much, who are now back in retailing, moving products, doing things the right way. They didn't even realize everything we had, So that's wonderful. Shelley, moving to you, you had, I don't know what I'll call it, but something went off in your brain in this last year, because you sold more tickets to the major events than I've ever seen you do. And it wasn't that you didn't try before, but somehow something changed, and you went from try to do to it's going to happen and I'm going to do it no matter what. What happened?
Well, there's probably a couple things. One, achieving the level of director, it increases your believability a little bit. So I seriously think that, achieving that, and especially, backing down, and then top organizational builder, there's something about achieving things for me that helps me become stronger in what I'm offering to somebody. And so I think my belief in what I was offering to them and the proof is in what happens as a result of these events. And that's another piece of it, Jim, is the more people I started to see coming out of these events and the activity following the event, that's very exciting for a leader. That's very exciting.
Yeah.
So I think I started to grow in the excitement of that. I think the people that I've recruited are of a higher level, a higher quality. So I think that's another thing that happened, is they do believe more in themselves. There is more self-confidence. Well, that increases my believability in what they can accomplish. So it becomes a little bit easier when you truly start to see the success, the activity, the growth, and the leadership capability. So I think there was a lot. I also am a huge with my goal statements. I always revamp my goal statements. My goal statements, whatever it says there, I achieve it. Jim, I had written that I would achieve director by May 1st, 2020. And you and I both know I was not on target to hit that. I mean, I'm watching the numbers and I'm like, dear God, I don't miss goals. Like, I'm not going to miss this goal. And so I just went like crazy and went after it. And I think, again, there's something about when you see yourself achieve it and others see you achieve it, their believability goes up. So setting higher goals, realizing what I was offering, the better quality of people, seeing the activity that comes after that event. And I always expect that, Jim. Every event now, I expect that. Now, this last regional that we had, that is truly the most tickets I have probably moved to a regional ever. And it's hard to even explain what changed. But I think it was just that I knew, and this is your livelihood, and you know that this is your future. There's something to be said about that when you feel like the world has sort of backed down from being as active as they once were. And I am the person that in the face of adversity, for whatever reason, I get tougher, I get stronger. And I think I saw myself get a lot stronger during that regional, because it was almost like, man, this is do or die. I need to show people that this is where they get their belief. I need them to be there. I need them to be there. And so it was just, and that's when I started just everybody, connecting. I could not believe, like Arlene, how many people said yes. It was just shocking. I mean, I'm like, holy cow. So doing the same thing for All-Star, that last night we had a specific call workshop. I had a list of 14 people. We connected with all of them. I moved 5 tickets out of the 14 personally.
I love it. You know what I love that both you and Arlene just touched on is you didn't put a post on Facebook saying, hey, you should go to regional or you should go to World Conference. You picked up the phone, you called people personally. Arlene, I know one of the things you told me a lot of times, I'd say, well, why are you calling me? And you'd be like, because you're in my organization, you're important to me. And they'd be like, I am. And they didn't even realize that two superstars like you two would be looking at somebody in the organization, and they are important. But a lot of people don't understand that. And that personal phone call makes all the difference. We've gotten, unfortunately, as a society, a lot of ways we get lazy. We want to announce something. We just post it on a social media and think that everybody sees it. This is called one-to-one marketing we do. And we do it with personal touch. We do it by caring, and we do it by sharing on that one-to-one basis. JR's always said we'll grow one person at a time, one customer at a time. And Shelley, when you talked about, you did it because you knew how important it was. I've always gone back to, I feel sometimes like we're back at Tyson's Corner, Arlene, and it's that time where we get the ability to make those calls and get those people together, and we're going to succeed to show others they can succeed. And that's a key, JR always says. But when I look at that, I see that you guys are both just so outstanding at that. I'm so impressed by both of you for taking the effort to do that. And I hope the people listening are hearing that and saying, I'm going to do that same thing. I'm going to call my people. I'm going to tell them how important it is and do that. Let me ask you another question. Arlene, I'll start with you. This is an easy one and won't take long. Do you buy more than just your own tickets for the event?
I buy 15 and I end up buying more.
15. I want to make sure people heard that. Why don't you just buy yours? Why don't you just buy one?
Because I have to get people there.
I know. I know the answer, Arlene. I want you to say it for them.
You know what? You only grow when people get the belief. The belief is when you go to these events. It's a simple. You know what? Also, I think is incredibly important, and I've seen this over the 27 years. And the reason why now, between the two ways that you can see this that are so important, you don't know when the light bulb is going to go off on someone that has been stable and waiting, where all of a sudden the why shifts. There's something that's happened, and they go like a bat out of heck. I'm just telling you, I've seen people wake from the dead like I can't believe, and like all of a sudden I got a Mighty Mouse, and I said, where's that coming from? That's not the personality I've seen. You don't know what's going on in someone else's life, and you don't know when the light bulb's going to shift. And if you keep them in the game long enough, it happens.
That is a great point. Shelley, how about you? Do you buy extra tickets?
Well, of course, of course I do. And you know what, Jim, that was instilled in me from day one. It was, you bought 5 tickets to a local and 3 tickets to a big convention. And now, being a local coordinator, that was, I'd buy 10, like Arlene, it's usually 12 or 15. And there's a couple reasons for this. One, I do believe that it's our responsibility to be a role model. And how can we expect someone else to do it if we're not willing to do it ourselves? And we might buy 12 or 15, but man, I tell people, you start with 3. You've got to have tickets that are burning a hole in your pocket to move them. The other piece is, if I'm sitting down with a new person and we're introducing the business plan to their prospective business partner, the most embarrassing thing for them is when I say, well, I'm sure Arlene has a ticket for you, right, Arlene? And Arlene says, well, I didn't buy any tickets. Now, nobody wants to be in that position. So I coach my people, you want to always, and if all you can afford is 1 ticket, buy the one and slide that across the table and sell it. You can always get another, but I don't want to be sitting in a situation where they don't have a ticket to pull out and give to that new person. So I think duplication, being a good role model, and again, we need to instill this in our new people from the beginning. And Jim, I wanted to add one more thing. You guys are so spot on with the phone call and the person feeling important. Somebody brought it up on our accountability call Monday, how Jim had remembered, their person's name. Somebody on their team, Jim remembered their name. They're like, oh my gosh, Jim Winkler knows my name. It is unbelievable how much people need to know they matter and they are significant. And I think too many people, when they step away from the business for a while, they are so filled with shame and guilt that they are afraid to step back up. They feel embarrassed. And I think for us to call them and say, man, are you kidding me? You're important to me. Like, I welcome you with open arms. And what can I do to help? So I really think it's the opposite. What people think, they're ignoring us, but it's not that. They're feeling shame and guilt, and we need to let them know that they actually really do matter.
Great coaching with that. And they do. And, in this day and age, there's that personal touch, as much as I love the business and I love our products, I'm going to tell you, there's something else I love. I love our family in the business. And I love that feeling that people have, that somebody cares about them for many reasons, not just because they're working together, and people need that as well in this day and age. And at the big events, they see that. They get the feeling, nobody shows that better than JR, Lauren, Mark, when they're up there talking about it and sharing. And they get to see it, like Arlene said, from the corporate team. Where does that heart come from? So You guys have been amazing tonight. I'll give you each a sort of a last word. Arlene, if you'd go first, any last thing you'd like to say?
Say something that's really important that we haven't touched on. I know that there'll be people that'll go to watch parties and there might be 25 people in the room. Now, guys, this is a business and there's a commitment to the business. That doesn't mean that you walk into the watch party with 25 people because someone is going to have it on the screen and you get your ticket for free. So I feel it's really important that people who even go to someone's home to watch it with everyone else, which is great because then that camaraderie should be in buying a $200 ticket because that's the investment for the business. And that's what we do in our business. So
I love that.
I think that's really important that people realize.
Thank you for saying that, Arlene. Free has no what?
No value.
No value. That has been installed in us forever from a business end. And again, so if 5 people get together and somebody says, I'll just buy the ticket, you guys come over, they're getting no value. They don't pay attention the same way. They don't do it. And watch parties, I'm glad you mentioned that, are a great thing. For those of you who are going to be unable to be there, you know, it is a great idea to get together with a group of 4 or 5 or 10 and organize that so that even while you may not be able to be there, you've got that feeling of togetherness while you are there to share it with. So that's a great ending point on that, Arlene. Thank you so much. And I hope everybody heard that loud and clear. Shelley?
My last thing would be, you know, I think decisions are important. And I think us deciding who we are, what is your identity? I mean, are you a successful person? And what does that look like for you? Because one of the things that I think can mess with this a little bit is if you're telling your team to do one thing and you yourself are not doing it, they're going to see that. They're going to know that. So always lead from the front, stay focused, and the words of Dennis Franks, stay the course.
I love the words of Dennis Franks. I'll tell you, we miss him. This event's going to be dedicated to Dennis.
Dedicated to him, yeah.
It's going to be very special. I won't try to talk too much or I'll get teary-eyed, but it's going to be a special event for our big brother there that we're missing. But you guys have been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing tonight. And for those of you who are on, I hope you have the ability, this will come out on a replay. So you'll have the ability, someone had asked that in the chat, would it be available by replay so people can see it? I'll tell you what, I'd have every new unfranchised owner I have in our organization or any guest who's seriously looking at the business to be able to learn from these two and hear their stories and hear how they feel going into World Conference could mean the world. Guys, stay safe. Take care of yourselves. I know you two I will see on our accountability calls, and everyone else, let's keep growing and keep building and doing something positive for your business. Take care.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.